I really want, I really want all of the seniors who are college bound to join their Google Classroom. So we have posters up around the school talking about this. This is the code right here in red. So we are listing on the Google Classroom, we are listing deadlines having to do with senior year, info about senior portraits. Ms. Myers is going to put stuff in there about prom and senior dues and senior visit, senior trip, and all of that other stuff. We're also going to post things having to do with financial aid, college applications. I have some pretty important documents saved in there, and I've been putting all the deadlines in there. So this is only for students. So parents, if you try to join, you're going to be bounced because I think it's only for NYC students' emails. But I always send my presentations out as well. So parents, if you're not getting my emails, please email me with your info and your student's full name to collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net, and I'll make sure that I'm adding you into my my whole contact book. Okay. You've also got my work cell phone there. So 848-218-5754. You can call me or text me on that number. I will only respond during school hours. So if you call me at 11:59 on a Sunday night, I'm not even answering because it's only set for school hours. Okay, so moving on. First thing I want to start with is getting into Naviance and talking about appointments. So to log into your Naviance, let me just start you off over here. It's going to be student.naviance.com. You go to student, obviously. Your OSIS is your username. And if you don't know what your password is, don't just try random combinations because it will block you out. If you don't remember, literally click on forgot your password. And for the email, you would put in your NYC student's email and send yourself a reset, okay? And then you go into your NYC student's email and you will see the reset link. If that doesn't work for you, just stop in the college office. That's room 194, room 194, right off the lobby. We are open at 7:30 in the morning, and we are open every period except for 2nd and 8th. We do close for a little while during 6th right now, and that's only as Ms. Clemente is transitioning into her role. Right now, we're a little short-staffed during 6th period, but you can stop by and we'll try to get you sorted with your Naviance. Okay, so let me just log in. Okay. So for seniors who need to make an appointment with me, these are the seniors who did not see me for a one-on-one appointment last year. They would go to the About Me tab right here and click on Surveys from your school. And you're going to go to the College and Career Appointment Survey. So you're going to think I'm crazy. This is a lot of questions. I know. Anything with a red star, I need answered. That's mandatory. But the other questions are optional. Okay, so I am asking you a lot of questions, but these are the questions that are going to help me to provide you with a list of colleges. I'll help you think about your majors, your career. We'll talk about test scores. We'll talk about how you do your applications. We'll talk about scholarships and financial aid. So this one-on-one appointment, the last 20 minutes, will answer a lot of your questions. Now, for those of you who already met with me last year and you just have like follow-up questions, you don't make a second appointment because there's only one of me and I don't have like enough appointments for every kid to have two. I'm still trying to catch up with the ones who haven't seen me at all. You can come to my drop-in periods. So my drop-in periods are 1st, 5th, and on Wednesdays, 6th period. So 1st, 5th, and 6th. You can just walk in, you can ask me questions. It's first come, first serve. You don't need to make an appointment. If those times aren't good for you though, you can email me your questions. You can text me your questions. And you know what else? I have a great staff. My aide, Cindy, has been with me for over 10 years. She knows a ton. She was in the college office before I even got there. So she knows a ton about the process. So if you can't ask me the question, ask her. There's a very decent chance she can help you with what you're having an issue with. And if she can't, she'll write it down and she'll send it to me. So I know what's going on and I can follow up with you. Okay. So I'm not magic. Like, you can talk to other people in the office and they can help you as well. And we also have computers in there. So if you want to go in and work on your applications or, look for scholarships, you can do that. Just if you have class during that time, just get a pass from your teacher. That's going to be important. Okay. So Naviance is going to be essential for my seniors this year. There is a ton of stuff on here that you're going to be utilizing. So over here, I've got some info, how to apply to colleges, trade schools, community service. But I also have on the Google Classroom, this is where I've been posting it as well. So here's the Google Classroom. So if you join, you'll be able to see all the stuff that I've been posting. So everything from, here's the community service directory. Here's a list of trade schools. And then my instructions for how to apply to college. So this literally has a step-by-step. This is what it looks like. There's a step-by-step on how do you apply to CUNYs? How do you apply to SUNYs? How do you use the Common App? How do you apply to trade school? So everything is step-by-step over here. Also, how you write your college essay, step-by-step, okay? So if you ask me a question that I answer in here, I am gonna say, look at page 10 on apply to college, okay? Because I spent a lot of time writing this. I'm gonna want you to read it before you ask me your questions. Okay, now for my seniors, I want you to take a look at what a typical transcript looks like that I send to the colleges. So when I send your transcript to the colleges, this is the kind of transcript that I send. Okay, these highlights are not on there. I just have it there to show you something right now. But this is the version of the transcript that I send to the colleges. It's done by semester rather than by subject, which is the one that I think you guys are used to seeing. So I do it this way because I feel it tells more of a story to the colleges. Okay, so what you see here is a typical senior transcript. This part right here, this is junior year, last year, okay? These right here that are pink highlighted out, these are the remote terms. This is sophomore year. This is the spring term of freshman year when the pandemic started. And then here's that time way back in freshman year in the fall when the seniors entered the school for the first time, back when the world was normal. So when I send this to the colleges, I'm also sending them an explanation of the DOE grading policy, which is that we are not including the remote terms when I send them your official cumulative average. So although they're getting this transcript, right, and they can see here that there's a cumulative average that says 94.16, they're getting an explanation that because of COVID, these three remote terms, although they can see the grades, they don't get factored into our official cumulative average. So this kid, her cumulative average says 94.16. These three terms right here, if I only look at the live terms, so that's junior year, and then that beginning of freshman year, if I average those three together, I get, it's almost the same cumulative average. Her cumulative average officially would be a 94.11. So it's a difference of like hundredths of a point. But the colleges are being told that those remote terms, like in other words, take them with a grain of salt. Look at these, you can see these grades, but also realize that they're remote, okay? This did not affect my seniors adversely last year. It didn't affect them adversely the year before, okay? So there's no reason to be worried about this. It's fine. This is affecting all of New York City. This is a thing for all of New York City. So same thing goes for the waived Regents grades. They're not going to hold that against you. They understand that because of COVID, this is the situation. All right. It is important to understand that the colleges will see your senior grades. That is pretty key. So realize that a lot of times they'll ask me for the report card from senior year and I'll send it to them. I'm hoping that helps you. Okay, hopefully. So you have to keep your grades up. A lot of them will ask me for the grades for the fall term of senior year. So realize that I'll be sending those as well. So you do not need a report card being sent that has like, a ton of comments about how you don't turn in work or you're always late. So realize that that can affect you. Okay. Hopefully you're doing well in your classes, so you're able to show that you are still maintaining a high average into your senior year. Okay. So let's see, we talked about the Google Classroom. Let's talk about what your seniors should be doing right now. So I think it's really, really important that seniors start by looking at their college list. Okay. So some of you have this written on paper. Some of you have it like, I don't know, saved in the notes app of your phone. Try to put your colleges that you're thinking about applying to here in Naviance under colleges I'm thinking about. Okay. So this is my demo student, and let me just close that out. I've got this student interested in these different schools. Okay. So if you put this here, you could, for instance, text me or email me and say, hey, Ms. O'Connell, I have a bunch of colleges in my list. Would you mind taking a look at them on Naviance and just commenting on my chances of getting in? On my side, I can view what you've done, and I can give you a sense of if you're going to be able to get into these schools or not. So my comments would be here under expected difficulty. You'll see me say, okay, that's a far reach, or that's a safety, or that's going to be harder for you to get into. And that helps you get a sense of like what your chances are. But on this list as well, you're able to view the college's deadlines. So if you click on this, you'll see their deadlines and you'll get a sense of what is the deadline I'm aiming for. So I go into a fuller explanation of what early action and early decision are in the applying to college instructions that I posted on the Google Classroom. Basically, what you need to know about early action and early decision is this. Early decision is binding. That means you can only apply to one school, early decision. And if you get into that school, you are essentially signing a contract saying, I agree to go to this school. You also agree to withdraw your applications to your other colleges. This is only good if you 100% know you're going to go to that school if you get in, and you've already gone through and checked that the financial aid works out for your school, works out for your family. It will not work if you need to compare financial aid packages with a bunch of different schools. In a case like that, I would recommend that you look at early action, which is this one. So not every school has early decision and early action. This is something that some schools have. But if you see early action, it's kind of a good deal. It's not binding, so you're not required to go to the school if you get in. You simply find out earlier than normal if you got into the school. So for example, if you apply to the school early action by December 1st, that means you would probably find out before the new year if you got into the school. It's really cool. So it's just, you don't have to make a decision right away. You can wait until you get all your packages in, but it's just nice to know instead of sitting there in limbo trying to figure out, like, am I getting into schools? What's going on? So early action and early decision require that you have the entire application requirements completed by that deadline. So whatever that school needs for you to apply, the application, the essay, your recommendations, if you're sending test scores, all of that stuff that is required has to be in by that deadline, okay? If you are, for example, trying to apply to this school by November 1st, but you want to take the November SAT and use it, you can't do that because the November SAT scores come in after this deadline, and you couldn't apply them towards this early decision because it's it's coming in after the deadline. So you really have to pay attention to whether you can comfortably handle these deadlines. So who is early action for? If you are the type of person who has a lot of your pieces together by now, you've already written your first draft of an essay, you're already showing it to teachers and friends, you've at least started your applications, then this is for you. If you are somebody who has not started one thing, you have not written one essay at all, and you're going to panic, maybe it's not for you because you might do kind of a rush job, and then it kind of defeats the purpose. Okay. So it does help you. It gives you like a little bump in terms of getting in. But it's not really going to help if you do a messy job and you've made errors all over your application. And that doesn't exactly make the college want to let you in. Okay, so regular decision. Regular decision means this is the regular hard deadline. If you apply by this deadline, you're fine. You're still considered for the freshman class. Okay, that is February 1st over here. Now, let me see if I can find you a school that has a rolling deadline. I think this is no, not that one. Let me see. Do we have a school with a rolling deadline? Okay. So here's an example. Montclair has a rolling deadline. So rolling means, if you see the word rolling here with the deadlines, that means that the school is basically taking applications and accepting people until they fill the freshman class. So if you apply earlier in the season, like let's say October, November, you have an easier chance of getting into that freshman class than if you wait all the way until like March to apply to the school, because at that point, maybe you're fighting with a bunch of people for the last couple of seats. Imagine a game of musical chairs. So you know how like in musical chairs, at the beginning, it's really easy to get a seat. You're just, going around and around until the music stops, and it's pretty easy to get yourself a seat. Rolling is like the end of musical chairs, where there's one chair and there's like three people going around and around that one chair. It's going to be harder for one person out of the three to get that seat. Okay, so think of it that way. Okay, so what I suggest you do is you put your schools on this list and start to make get a sense of which deadlines you're aiming for. Okay, you can get a sense of who's got a deadline coming up soonest, and maybe that's what you want to work on first. You also should make a list of what the college's requirements are. Does the school want one recommendation? Does it want two? Does the school need a portfolio? Do they need a graded paper? So for example, NYU requires that you fill out something called a self-reported academic record, SRAR. It's a requirement. So that means that you're getting your transcript. You can ask for it from your guidance counselor, or you can email me and I'll give you a copy. And in their website, you're entering all your academic classes. So as annoying as this is for you, it basically helps NYU to make a quicker decision. Because what you've done is you've basically translated your classes into their system. And now it's really easy for them to compare you and your courses to other kids who've also applied from all around the country and all around the world, because now everyone's like in the same system using the same language basically to talk about their courses. So as annoying as it is for you, it's lovely for them because they can make a quicker decision. Last year, half the people who applied to NYU from our school forgot to do the SRAR, the self-reported transcript. And I had to remind them, hey, you forgot to do this. They're not going to give you a decision. So when you do your applications, the colleges are going to start contacting you via your cell phone, like through texting. They'll reach out to you via email, and they'll tell you if you're missing stuff. If you forgot to send something, they will contact you. It's up to you to follow up. Okay, so you need to check, hey, why is this not there? Hey, maybe I forgot to do X, Y, Z. Okay, so that's super important that you're staying on top of all of that. Okay, so with your college list, I also want to point out that, let me see, does this person have Macaulay on here? Okay, let's talk about Macaulay Honors for a second. So CUNY Macaulay Honors, let me just pull that up for you. Macaulay Honors College is a program. It's very, very selective, and it's at different CUNY schools. So that includes College of Staten Island, Hunter, Brooklyn, John Jay, Baruch, City College, etc. This program is a full tuition 4-year scholarship for the best and brightest. The usual average for students who are able to get into the Macaulay program is around a 93 to a 94. These students tend to have the most advanced classes that we offer. So those transcripts include a lot of AP classes, scholars classes, college now, honors classes. It's usually not somebody who has none of those things, okay? It's usually somebody who's got lots of those. It has nothing to do with your income. It's purely on your academic talents. And it is a pretty involved application. So a lot of my students traditionally apply to Macaulay Honors. You should be aware of a few things. Their deadline is pretty early. It is November 16th. So I really recommend, if you're kind of weighing which application do I do first, you might want to consider doing the Macaulay Honors application first and then doing your remaining schools. I'll show you why. Let me see if I can find you the essay questions. Okay, just a second. So the essay questions. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm so sorry. CUNY is test optional this year and also for the juniors upcoming. And so for the next 2 years, it will be test optional. Macaulay Honors is also test optional. So test optional basically means that if you choose not to send your SAT or ACT scores, they do not hold it against you. They don't hold you, hold that up as a weakness. They just assess you using literally everything else in your application, including, of course, your transcripts. So it will not hurt you. Many, many people for the last 2 years have not sent in their test scores to some of the top schools that they've gotten into. So there are 2 essays. Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. So here are the essays for Macaulay Honors. I have a link to this in the Google Classroom under my section about the essay. And I also have this in the applying to college instructions, okay? So they want 2 essays. So specifically, you're choosing between these 2 essays. So this one is about a background, identity, interest, or talent that is meaningful to you. This one over here is an activity or some kind of thing outside of academics that you have spent a lot of time and effort being involved in. So you're choosing one of these 2. Now, mind you, these are very similar to the essays that are on the Common Application. So my suggestion is do this essay first, and then you could always reuse it for another college that's not part of CUNY. Okay, and then Macaulay also wants you to answer a question about why do you want to go to Macaulay. So like I said, I think you should do the Macaulay Honors application first. Okay, so something else I forgot to mention about Macaulay, other than the full tuition scholarship, Macaulay also gives you a free Apple laptop, a MacBook, I think. They also give you money that you can use for studying abroad or doing research, which is pretty great. So the research component is basically, let's say you want to do research because you want to go to med school. So you want to do some research with a professor. It's really hard to do full-time research if it's an unpaid position, and you kind of have to choose between having a part-time job or doing your full-time research. If you have that money from Macaulay, you don't have to make that decision because you're basically being paid to do the research. It's pretty cool. So Macaulay offers you extra mentors, extra enrichment, and it definitely looks good when you're applying to graduate programs like law school or med school. So it is definitely a thing that I want my top students to consider. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I also wanted to mention that they do require recommendations. Let me just go back to that. So recommendations, here we go. They want 2 letters of academic recommendation. So if you've already asked your teachers for recommendations, they're going to ask you to put in their email in the application. I don't want you to do that. If you follow my instructions that are in the posted instructions I have for applying, I want you to use either collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net or collegeoffice2@wagnerhigh.net as the recommender emails. What will happen is my office will get the email request for the recommendations. My office will take care of uploading the letters we have on file for you into the CUNY system, okay? If you don't do what I'm telling you to do and you put the teacher's emails in, you will be waiting forever for those letters to get uploaded. So please trust me, use my office emails, college office or college office 2 at wagnerhigh.net, and we will make sure that your stuff is there on time. So that is pretty important. Okay. All right. So let me just go back to that list. Now, how do you do your non-CUNYs? Well, first of all, the CUNY application is on its own website. Okay. And I'll show you in my applying to college instructions. I have a whole explanation of how you do that. Okay. It's on page 7 of this. I have a whole explanation of how you do it, how you answer all the specific questions. But a lot of your other schools are going to be on a thing called the Common App. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So if you look at this list, for example, right here where it says delivery type, see all these schools that have a CA? Lots of CAs, lots of CAs, tons of CAs. Okay. That means these schools are on the Common application. So the Common application is its own website. It's just commonapp.org. Okay. You make an account. All right. I've already made like a fake account. And just a second. You're going to go to this thing that says Common App right here. Over 800 schools belong to the Common App. So that's not every school in America, but it's a lot of them. It might even be the majority of them, of the 4-year schools. So you are able to fill out one application on the Common App, and then you're able to say, hey, Common App, send it to these 10 different schools. It saves you from having to do 10 separate applications because it's a lot to have to do that. Colleges don't prefer one thing over another. So for example, if let's see, if Wagner College is offering you the option of doing the Common App or their own website application, they don't prefer their own website. They're fine with you doing the Common App. So if you're applying to at least 2 schools that use the Common App, you might as well just do it on the Common App. It's totally fine. So the way that you do the Common App is you have to work your way through these sections. The goal is you want to get a green check in each section. That's how you know you're done with that section. So you have to answer everything with a red star. If it has a red star, it's mandatory. If it doesn't have a red star, like this question, would you like to share a different first name that you go by? That's not mandatory. So don't sit there and obsess about it. If you don't really want to answer it or you don't understand it, just move on with your life. You have to do the ones that have a red star. That's how you get a green check. If you can't get a green check, it's because you missed something that was mandatory. Okay. So in the profile section, let me see if there's anything that would confuse you. Yeah, I get a lot of questions around the fee waiver. So you only qualify for an application fee waiver if you have fulfilled, like I approve you if you fit the, it's the New York State chart for the poverty threshold. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Again, I have this in my instructions for applying to college. I'll just show it to you right now so you can get a sense. Just a second. Here's the chart. So it's the number of people who live in your house versus the annual income. So the annual income is what you see on the federal taxes. So what I'm looking at is the 2021 federal taxes, the number of people who live in the house versus what it says for the adjusted gross income. Okay. So that's usually like on the first page of the 1040 form. So if 4 people live in your house, the annual income cannot be above $49,025. You will not qualify for a fee waiver. Why am I using this? Because when we just went by the lunch list and what people self-reported on the lunch form, what was happening was that people were underreporting their income. And then when they would do their financial aid for colleges, the colleges would say, hey, you asked for a fee waiver, but it says here in your financial aid that you make $80,000 a year. This doesn't match. So you owe us the application fee. What happens then is not only have you lied to the college and misrepresented yourself, but now you've delayed your whole application because they're not going to process it and assess you for admission until you actually pay the application fee. So check this income chart. You will be able to know if you qualify or not. Okay. If I have not said to you that you qualify and you want to show me that you qualify, you can take a picture of that first page of the taxes and show me. You can bring it into the office. You can email me a scan, whatever you want. Feel free to black out the Social Security numbers. I don't need to know that. I'm really looking at the number of people in the house versus the annual income. And again, this is for 2021. Okay, so going back to my Common App. Okay, if you say yes over here, when I fill out my forms for you and send them to the colleges, I'm basically gonna say yes for you for the Common App only if you've been pre-approved. Okay, so under the education section, I get a lot of questions about this too. Let me move down a little bit. So where it says colleges and universities, this is where you are listing your College Now or St. John's University College Advantage credits. So say you took St. John's classes and College Now classes, okay? So you're gonna say that you did 2 colleges. So here's what Kingsborough looks like. You're just gonna look it up. It's gonna be dual enrollment because you're enrolled in a Kingsborough class at the same time that you're enrolled in high school. You would only click summer program if that was like a College Now program that you did at CSI or something. For the from and to dates, you're gonna estimate this. So if you know you did it the fall term of junior year, it's gonna be September to December. If it's the spring term, it's probably gonna be February to May. You're leaving this part blank because you did not earn a degree. And hey, remember, it's not mandatory. You're just doing the red stars, right? And then this is where you'd put like St. John's or another college. All right, scrolling down. I'm getting a lot of questions about this section. So in the grades section, I'm going to point this out. The only question you have to answer is the graduating class size. Okay, so red star, 858 in your graduating class right now. Leave this stuff blank. Rank, GPA, all that jazz, leave it blank. When I send your documents, I will update it on my end. Okay. If you are curious, just for the heck of it, what your GPA is and what your rank is, rank has not been finalized yet. So I really would rather that you not put it in yet. But I do have your GPA out of 100 scale listed on Naviance. So, oops, let me just get back into Naviance. Sorry about that. Okay, so if you were to go to the About Me tab and then go to My Account, you will see, let's see, scroll down just a tad, you'll see under academic, your GPA. This would be unweighted, this is weighted, okay? So I'm saying Lady Gaga has a 90. And then the decile just means like what percentage of the class you're in right now. So she would be like in the top 30% of her class. Again, it hasn't been finalized because the guidance counselors still have to sort of go through all the transcripts and take out the people who would not be ranked. For example, transfer students who came to our school like junior year, that would be people who would not get ranked. Okay, so just want to go back to Common App. There we go. Under testing, okay, think hard about this. Do you wish to self-report scores for ACT, SAT, or AP tests? My recommendation, unless you killed it in those particular tests, is to say no, okay? So if you say no, that gives you more flexibility for being able to be test optional with a school, all right? So for example, if you got a 1530, you killed it on the SAT, go ahead and list it, brag all you want. But let's say you got an 1100. That might be cool for some schools where it's above average, but maybe not cool for a school like Binghamton, where the average student has like a 1370. So if that school is test optional, you don't want them to see those scores. If you list your scores here, they're gonna see them. So don't list them. Just keep it as a no. If you don't list your scores here and you do want to send them to, like, let's say 1 or 2 specific schools, you would do so by going into your College Board account and sending your scores from there. If you come to the college office, one of the staff can show you how to do that. Okay, but this gives you the most flexibility. Just say no. Under activities. So activities let the colleges understand what you do when you're not in class. So I don't want you to think that it's only like officially sanctioned clubs or organizations that you can list here. So if you, I don't know, play guitar in a band outside of school with your friends, yeah, you can list that. That's a thing. If you do, I don't know, tutoring at a community center, that's a thing. Family responsibilities. Okay, that means your parents both work. You have to go pick up your little brother and little sister from school. You get them home. You make sure they do their homework and you feed them dinner. That's a family responsibility that you can list because you are showing that there's a reason why you're not in 12 clubs. It's because you have this thing that you have to do for your family. And that is a thing that the colleges need to understand, that you're not just like laying around on the couch, like looking at Instagram, right? Hobbies. So hobbies don't have to be official for them to be listed. For example, I spoke to a young man today who loves doing photography. He does it in his spare time. He's like self-taught. He loves taking photos of, let me see if I can remember, sporting events, and he does portraits for people sometimes. He's so good that he has his own Instagram for this. So I was like, yeah, you can list that on your Common App and your other applications. And after you check that the photos that you have on your Instagram are appropriate, okay, you can also list your Instagram handle on your application so that the colleges have, wow, this is another way that I can take a look at what this kid does in his spare time. It's very cool. So sports don't have to be like an official team that you're on in school. It could be a travel team. It could be like your church, basketball league. You can put that down here. Work and volunteering can also be listed. So again, work does not need to mean this is an official job where you get a printed paycheck. It could literally be, I babysit for my neighbor's kids like once a month. That's a thing, even though she's paying you cash. That's fine. Okay. So this is where you would list that stuff. Now, it lets you list about 10 things. So if you've done more than 10 things during high school, you will want to winnow it down to the top 10, right? Your greatest hits, the things that meant the most to you. So maybe you're not listing that one time freshman year when you worked at a food pantry, right? You're listing more things than that. Okay. And the writing section. So this is where you are posting your essay. Okay. Now the senior English classes are going to be working on the essays, but nothing is stopping you from taking a look at these essay topics already and figuring out which one you want to do. So you'll notice that this first question, which has to do with background, identity, interest, that's just like that Macaulay question that we just looked at. And the other thing was, the other Macaulay question had to do with an activity that you're really involved in. That could apply to this question. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging. So that's why I was saying, if you're going to apply to Macaulay and to Schools on Common App, maybe do the Macaulay questions first, and then you're able to just take that essay, throw it in here, okay? Please note there is a 650 word limit, and they really mean it. So my top tip is do your essay on Google Docs. That way you can access it from wherever, and then it's easy for you to go in and like edit it and then cut and paste it over. In the additional information section, these are optional, but you may find them useful. So in the additional information section, there's an area where it asks you about how COVID has affected you. If it has, I know it's affected us in different ways. Some people, unfortunately lost family members. Some people had real serious mental health struggles during this time. And being remote like really didn't help. Some people really felt their grades suffer because they had such a hard time learning remotely. And I get it, because we had a hard time teaching, trust me, and counseling. This is not complaining. This is giving context and helping the college to understand how you've gotten through these last months, these last years, right? So yes, you can share things here. You will not be held at a disadvantage if you don't. Just saying you could. And then down here, they ask you, do you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected in the application? This is where you would explain stuff that you see on your transcript. So for example, this person wrote, right at the beginning of 10th grade, my parents divorced. So maybe on the transcript that I'm sending for this person, you see a big dip in the grades in that fall of 10th grade, right? And then they wrote, although things are better now, at the time, the divorce affected my ability to concentrate in my classes and get my work done. My grades temporarily suffered, but I was able to get them back up. I feel a lot better about the situation now that time has passed. I went through some family counseling. You don't need a ton of words there to get that point across. This is where you would write stuff about in my junior year spring, I went through a major surgery and I was on home instruction for 3 months. Like that's where you would explain what they're looking at on the transcript. All right. So it is an optional thing, but it is nice to know that you could enter that stuff there. This is also a good place to put something like, I wanted to take AP Calculus my senior year, but there was no space in the class. So I had to settle for regular calculus. That's where you're showing the colleges that you did aspire for more, you did try to challenge yourself, but it just wasn't possible. And it gives some context to why they're seeing regular calculus on your senior grades. Like they can understand, oh, it wasn't that you were trying to take it easy. You tried, but you couldn't get into that class, and they'll understand that's just what happened. Now, to submit your Common App to a college, right? You would look up the college. So let's use PACE as an example. Now, notice that PACE has 2 different campuses here. That's okay. A lot of colleges have multiple campuses. There's like a main campus and then satellite campuses. So for example, PACE, their main campus is in Pleasantville, which is up in Westchester, and their satellite campus is New York City. Another example is Long Island University. Long Island University has their main campus in, surprise, surprise, Long Island. And then their satellite campus is Long Island University, Brooklyn, LIU Brooklyn. You can apply to, it's the same thing, like you can apply to that college and either of the campuses using the Common App. So let's add PACE, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when we look at all your schools. So here's your list of colleges. Okay, these are just some that I added in ahead of time. You can look at the dashboard, and this kind of tells you where you are in the whole process. So for example, let's look at PACE. Let's say that we want to do the PACE application first. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. It gives you a sense of what the deadlines are, how much it costs, is it test optional or not? Do they want recommendations, right? How many they want? Do they have an essay? All of that stuff, okay? So in the questions for the particular college, this is where it's going to ask you stuff like, when do you want to start? Are you going to live at home or not? Are you going to pursue fee waiver? Pursue financial aid. Now, when they ask this question, do you qualify to use one of these school-specific fee waivers? If you are already getting the Common App fee waiver, don't answer this, right? You can say, I don't qualify. If you went to an open house, for example, and they gave you a code, like that's what they're asking, you could put that info in there, okay? If you have one of those fee waivers, like you know it, they gave it to you, they gave you a code. Down here is where they're gonna ask about your major. So see, which campus? So are you doing New York City or Pleasantville, right? And do you want to be test optional or not? So let's say no. And let's say yes. Okay, so if you want to do this particular scholarship for community service, you're putting in info about that. let's say no, so I can just move on. And then they're going to ask you for what activities, right, do you want to do at PACE? So they will ask you for your major here, okay? And that's because the reason why they don't ask you about your major in the regular Common App is that you could be applying to one school for one major and then another school for a different major. So this gives you flexibility. So once you get a green check for your questions, you're going to go to this recommender section. Now, FERPA, you only have to do this once. FERPA is basically, it's a federal law, stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It is basically you saying, yes, I agree to allow my school to release my records to the college, okay? So the other thing is if you want to waive your rights to review your confidential letters of recommendation. So what that means is the college, sorry, let me just check that off. So I acknowledge that every school that I've attended may release all requested records. Okay, so that's saying, yes, the college office can send my records to this college. And then they're going to ask you, do you waive your rights or do you not waive your rights? It doesn't matter which one you answer, but you have to answer. I will point out that waiving your rights to view your recommendations, it basically sends the message that your recommendations are legit and that you weren't like, leering over your teacher's shoulder while she was writing the recommendation, right? So I usually waive my rights. You can choose to do either one. I want to point out that my office does not show you your recommendations. That's our school policy. If a teacher wants to show you their recommendation, that's cool, but that's between you and the teacher. We do not share the recommendations with you. They only go from my office directly to the college, okay? And so you fill this out, you do it once, and that's good for all your schools, okay? For the recommenders, it does not, hang on a second, let me just show you what that looks like. Our school uses Naviance. Hang on. Let me just put this in. Just enter this. Okay, so this is what you're going to see once you complete the FERPA. Our school uses Naviance, so you do not have to invite any counselors or teachers to, you don't need to invite any recommenders, okay? I'm already doing that through Naviance. You don't have to touch any of that. Now, a supplemental recommendation is different. So an other recommender is somebody outside of our school who's going to write something on your behalf. So this might be a clergy member, your coach, your employer, maybe your supervisor at your volunteer job. So that's where you could invite another recommender. When you do that, you're entering their personal email address. They're going to get a link, and that recommendation is going to go directly from that person to the college. Okay, it's not going through my office at all, and that's totally fine. This is optional. You don't need to invite an advisor. If you want to invite me, you can, but you really don't need to, okay? Because you can always just come to my office and open it up and show it to me. Now, once you've got green checks for both of these things, you click on review and submit, and this is where you're going to be able to review everything and submit your application. Then it goes to the college. What you're going to do after you submit on the Common App or any other application, you have to notify me that you applied. I don't just magically know. So over in your Naviance, you go to your, I'll do it from the homepage. Okay, you're going to go to colleges I'm applying to. And you are going to go to this little pencil icon right here. And you're going to tell me that you submitted your application. So you're going to go, I've submitted my application. If there's a particular division that applies to you, you check that off. You tell me what app type. You tell me, yeah, that's basically it. All right. And then you save it. And then I get notified. When I come in the morning, I will run a report of all the students who have submitted on Naviance. That's how I know that you applied. I don't need a follow-up email. I don't need a follow-up text. I don't need you to stop in the office and tell me also. I just need you to do this one thing on Naviance. You will now show up on my list of kids to process, okay? So when you hit submit, my job starts. When you hit submit, I see that you applied. I send your transcript. I do your school forms and send those. I follow up on your recommendations and send those. You can hit submit on your end before your recommendations are done. Okay, it is okay. In fact, a lot of teachers will wait until they see that you submitted an application before they actually write your recommendation. So if you want to take a look at your recommendations, you go to the colleges. If you want to see the status of your recommendations, go to colleges, go to letters of rec, and just a second. And this is where you would see the status, okay? So you'll see that you requested something. Requested means they haven't sent it, they haven't uploaded it yet. If it changes and says pending, that means that they have uploaded it, but it hasn't been sent yet. If it says submitted, that means it's been uploaded and I submitted it to a college, okay? That's how you know. All right, let me just see how we're doing here. Okay. So my info on the recommendations is in the applying to college instructions. I'm just checking this chat here. You can apply to different schools for different majors. Yes, and what if a member of clergy has given you a sealed envelope with a recommendation? In a case like that, bring it to the college office. We'll scan it and keep it on file, and I will send it to the colleges on the clergy member's behalf. Okay, just so that everything looks legit. Okay. You can expect your application decisions to come in. Usually it's like maybe 2-3 months after you've applied. You can look on the college's own website. A lot of times they'll post the date that they release decisions. Okay. So that's how you know like when you can expect these things. Now for financial aid, I strongly recommend you wait to do financial aid until after you've applied to your schools. So financial aid opens up for the senior class on October 1st. You can't do it ahead of time. If you don't know your college list, if you don't know where you're applying, it's going to be really hard to do your financial aid because they ask you, where do you want us to send your financial aid? So don't do the reverse. Don't do financial aid first and then your applications, because you might just end up wasting a bunch of your spots because you end up not applying to those schools. So do your college applications first, get those out of the door. Then you work on financial aid. And yes, I'll be doing a financial aid presentation about that. We'll also try to do some workshops so I can help you with that one-on-one. Then you focus on your scholarships after that, okay? I'll talk more about scholarships at the financial aid presentation, but basically, just so you know, I have a ton of them on Naviance. It's in the colleges tab under scholarships. You can also just access it off the homepage. And you can do searches using filter words. So say, for example, you just want to see scholarships for Wagner students. Oops. I don't want to add it. I want to look it up. Let's see. Oh, sorry. I think I'm in the wrong thing. Actually, I think it's the scholarship search right there. That's what I want to do. So then like you just use a filter word. There we go. Here's a bunch that are just for Wagner students. So you basically just open it, read the description. If it sounds like something you want to do, cool. Follow the instructions for applying. In this case, you would just download the application and follow the instructions, okay? But again, I don't recommend that you try to do everything at the same time. I think it's gonna make your head explode. I strongly recommend applications first, then financial aid, then you do your scholarships. Okay, so let me just tie this up. Can you submit test scores to some schools and not to others? Yes. You would do that by saying no to the testing question on Common App, and then you would go to College Board and send it selectively to like the 1 or 2 schools that you want to send those scores to, okay? And when you submit, do you get a bill from each school? No, when you submit, right before you submit, if you didn't ask for a fee waiver, right, it's going to say the fee is $50 or whatever. And then they'll give you options for payment, okay? Colleges do not process your applications until you have either paid or submitted the fee waiver, all right? So again, just reiterating to my seniors, you can join the Google Classroom to see the deadlines and information about applying to college and financial aid. You can come to the college office and ask questions. We open at 7:30, okay? We're closed during 2nd and 8th, but we're open. All right. And if you want to talk to me specifically, I'm there 1st and 5th, 6th on Wednesdays. And you can always text me or email me your questions. I will get back to you pretty darn fast. It's a little crazy how quick I get back to you. Okay. So I hope that you found that useful. I hope that this gets you started on the process. All right. And I hope to see a bunch of you showing up in my submitted column. Okay. Have a great senior year. Good luck.
Remote panel.